Hello and welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA, which we're doing on Tuesday afternoon at the Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Did I say that right?
You did. First time for everything.
How many different places have we done the podcast from now? We're racking them up.
We did it from the Dallas, Boston,
Las Vegas, Akron, Oklahoma City,
here.
All right. Well, today we're in Indiana. I've been coming here. They've had 4 different names since I've been coming to this arena. Tim Bontemps here in Indianapolis. Van MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. It's been a while since I've been to Indy. I think the last time I was in Indy, I might be wrong, but I think it was when Monte Ellis
That's a long time,
hit
buddy.
a game winner and refused to talk to the media afterwards.
By the way, speaking
that might have been Milwaukee.
We
of
talked
Monte
about
Ellis.
this on the phone just briefly because we talked about that moment on the phone the other day. It is really remarkable to think back on the fact that there was once a debate whether the Warriors should keep Monte Ellis or Steph Curry. That's like just an unbelievable
Well, the
thing
owner
to
was
think
booed
about.
for trading him. But the other day, we were all at the press conference in Dallas it was in Oklahoma City, honoring former Warriors coach who made Monte Ellis a star, quite frankly.
Former Mavericks coach.
Former Mavericks coach Don Nelson, former Bucks coach. He's been around.
Knicks
coach.
Briefly, Knicks coach.
That was, first off, that was so much fun listening to Nelly talk. He could have talked for 2 hours. My favorite part of the whole thing was that he was like, this was the first time he'd left Maui
Yes.
in 7 years.
He said he hadn't worn shoes in 6, and then he made a big point to say, I'm wearing Luka 4s.
Well,
I'm
that was
protesting
your
the
favorite.
trade.
That was your favorite part.
So,
I'm sure.
you know what, though? That's the first time I have seen or talked to Donnie Nelson since he was Don's son, obviously, longtime Mavs executive, since he was fired from the Mavericks. So I go up, had a nice conversation with Donnie. You know what Donnie wanted to talk to me about?
Probably Luka Doncic.
No, how much he enjoys the Hoop Collective.
Oh, well, hello, Donnie.
And I enjoyed, since we're talking about this briefly, during the press conference, Don Nelson, who had prefaced his remarks to Mark Stein that he was going to talk about Luka and the trade and why he was wearing the shoes, had things to say about the Mavs trading him. And then Rick Carlisle very slyly said, I want to welcome a few people who will be here from Dallas. Including Donnie Nelson, had the pleasure of working with him for 13 years. And oh, by the way, drafted a lot of great players, but he just so happened in 2018 to draft both Luka Doncic and Jalen Brunson in the same draft. I wonder why Rick Carlisle, why would he do that? Why would he bring up that draft?
There was a lot of
why.
fire at that press conference aimed at the Mavericks by former Mavericks.
They're just trying. They're just getting ready to host Cooper Flag on a visit.
That's
What's
right.
going on?
What's going on?
What's going on is we've got Game 3 of the finals coming up on Wednesday. 1-1. However, it's 1-1, and that's the most important score. That's all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
The Pacers have led for less than 2 minutes in this series. And
I mean, they led for 0.3 of a second in the game they won.
it's all that mattered.
Yeah. The most
I've
important
often said
0.3.
the final 0.3 are the most important tenths.
Exactly.
So now here's what we're wondering. We're wondering, is this going back 2-2? That's really the question I have. Is it going back 2-2, or is the fact that the Thunder have won 46 of the 48 minutes an indication of where this series is
So
going?
it's 94 to 96, but
right.
it should be 3-1. It should be 3-1. It should be 3-1 Indy or Oklahoma City going back to OKC. They should close this out in 5 games. Like the first 2 games, if you watched it, like you just said it, the Thunder are clearly the better team. And like we talked about going into the series, Indiana's an awesome team. But the thing they have thrived on through these playoffs, the last couple playoffs, is being able to take advantage of weaknesses that the other team's defense has and just exploiting them over and over and over again with relentless efficiency.
Definitely what they did against the Cavs and the
Cavs,
Knicks.
the Knicks, the Bucks, the Knicks last, like that's what they do.
Well, the Bucks didn't have Giannis or Dame, so they didn't. They had Giannis.
But the point is, that's what they do, right? And the problem is in this matchup, there just isn't a place for them to attack. Tyrese Haliburton, yes, he hit the game winner. He's otherwise been invisible. Pascal Siakam, who was fantastic throughout the playoffs, he's a similar guy that really likes to take advantage of matchups in transition. There's not a clean matchup for him to go at. Jalen Williams has not shot the ball awesome the first couple games. His defense has been really good on Pascal.
Yeah.
It's just hard to see outside of, hey, can the Pacers have a 21-point or better 3-point margin like they did in game 1? Like, sure, they could have a great shooting night. Thunder could have a bad shooting night. But short of that, it's just hard for me to look at a logical path of the Pacers getting ahead in the series.
They've got to be able to get in the open floor. They've got to be able to run. And that is something that Oklahoma City has completely taken away. I suspect that's part of the reason that Daigneault has barely played the two bigs together, right? They played together for, I think, 4 minutes in game 2, not at all in game 1.
Yep.
The Knicks' two bigs got scorched a lot just because Siakam would outrun them. But Stats Williams in the post-game thing that he said after game 2, there was a stunning stat in there. Tyrese Haliburton had 1 transition play in that game. A transition play in that game. It was a turnover on that play. Tyrese Haliburton to not generate a single point in transition and only have 1 opportunity when, he is the engine to – is it the best transition offense in the league? I think they can certainly make that claim. That's really, really good work, starting with Lou Dort, but OKC's defense as a whole.
Well, look, the first 2 games, Siakam has averaged 13 shots, okay? Haliburton has averaged 13 shots.
Yeah.
That's just like – and I understand that the Pacers are a democratic offensive team. You're not having a guy shooting 28 times.
Mm-hmm.
You're not having a guy who has to score 35 for you to win. I get it. But their 2 greatest offensive weapons are Siakam and Haliburton, and they can't get shots up. And this is what happened in the last round. Here's Ant Edwards. People are counting his shots. They're like, well, Ant only had whatever it was, 14 shots. And it's hard. It's hard when they're trying to stop you.
And it's especially hard if it's in the half court because, against this OKC defense, period, but especially for the Pacers. Like, it's not like the Pacers call a bunch of half court sets for Siakam. He lit the Knicks up because he outran them.
And when he gets a matchup, he goes right at it.
Right. And then there was a matchup that they felt very comfortable for him to go right at. That's not the case in this series. Like you mentioned, Jalen Williams is his primary defender, and Jalen Williams is more than equipped to guard him in the half court, where obviously Karl-Anthony Towns absolutely was not.
Yeah, and look, we talked about it. You brought up the piece that Zach Cram, our new colleague, and Kevin Belton, their longtime colleague, wrote going into game 1 of the series. And it brought up the stats of Haliburton against the Thunder. And look, Tyrese Haliburton is a lot of things. He's not a guy that when he's got Lou Dort or one of these other Bulldog, Alex Caruso, one of these big physical Thunder guards on him, he's not going to go through those guys and make plays.
Case and Wallace even.
Yeah, Case and Wallace, same
By the
thing.
way,
He's
I'm fairly certain. So Haliburton has no free throws in the 2 games. I'm fairly certain that Zach and Pelton wrote that he drew 1 shooting foul in the regular season against them.
Yeah. It's
so
just
4 games, 1 shooting foul.
This is the one team in the league that can really take away all the things that make the Pacers a unique team to play against and why they're so difficult for teams to match up with. Because Haliburton is a very smart player. Part of the genius of him is that he is cool with kicking the ball ahead, letting other guys score. He doesn't need to have 30 in a game. But if you need him to go at somebody, like when he had that 32-point, 15-assist, no-turnover game here in Game 4, he did that because he was going at Jalen Brunson, right? There was Jalen Brunson sitting there. He knew he could get to his spot. He kept getting to his spots. He'd get in the lane, collapse the defense, make plays. And against this Thunder team, you just can't do that. And through 2 games, it's just very hard to make a rational case the Pacers are even in the series despite the series being 1-1.
Let me make a small case. So if you're a Pacers fan, this is what I have for you. In the second half of Game 2, they scored 66 points and shot like 54%.
Yep.
In the second half of Game 1, they also scored 66 points, shot over 50%. So, look, I can't speak to you about those first halves. They barely got to 10 points in the first half of Game 1. Game 2, they scored 41 points in the whole first half. But in half of the games, they have been able to put points on the board against them. Now, some of it maybe just be the Thunder getting a big lead and taking their foot off the gas.
A lot of the second half of Game 2 was garbage time. Game 1,
I wouldn't say a lot of it.
I would say at least the whole fourth quarter. It was a 20-point game for basically.
But they were playing
2/3 of the second half.
Whatever. The point is, if you're looking for a reason why the Pacers can do something here, they have put together a couple of good second halves.
It's the second half of Game 1. That's the one to point to.
Well, they had 66 points in the second half of Game 2 and shot 55%. That's not nothing.
Well,
and if you are
in Game 1, the Thunder didn't. Second half of Game 1, the Thunder missed 1,000,000 threes, and the Pacers went 6 for 10 in the fourth quarter, and they were over 50%, I think, in the second half. Right?
They were 10 to 20.
Yeah.
Well,
so that's you want to say what's the formula for the Pacers to win games in the series? That's it. Like their 3-point margin that game was plus 21.
Well, also Haliburton actually got a couple of shots with his feet in the paint, and I know it was garbage time, but like,
well, you got to start somewhere.
there was a play in the first, like 6 minutes into the game the other night on game 2 where Haliburton got free off a screen and took a 31-footer.
Dude,
He had a bunch of space. He could have got. He wasn't even looking to go.
here's another Stats Williams Jim. So
GM.
Haliburton's played 6 games against the Thunder in the last 2
years.
seasons.
Yeah.
He's not even gotten double-digit drives in any of those games. Game 2, 9 drives. The Pacers scored a total of 2 points on his 9 drives.
Yeah, that's just not
Like
that's
they're
not
just,
getting it done.
I mean, the paint is just a no-fly zone for the Pacers. And again, step 1 of making the paint a no-fly zone is don't let them get out and run.
Right.
Make them grind it out in half court. But like that's amazing.
Siakam has gotten in the paint a little bit, and when they can, they're beating the hell out of him.
So here's
They're pounding him in
Well,
there.
to me-
that's the Thunder. That's what the Thunder do.
And Haliburton obviously has the best moment of this series so far, hitting the game winner in game 1. But in game 2, Haliburton never looked comfortable. He's having to earn every step that he takes with the ball in his hands. And Shea looked like he was just cruising out there, just cruising. And how many times did they set high pick and roll? They were setting it way up high, 30-plus feet. They set high pick and roll, and Shea would just split the double, and next thing you know, whoa, it's 4-on-3 going downhill with Shea just coming right down with a runway and making all kinds of plays out of that.
Our guy Jackson, stellar producer for the pod, trying to steal Stats Williams Thunder during the break, trying to get MacMahon to
I actually
pull up
didn't care about
stats.
it. It was fine. I was
No,
fine with
well,
it.
I'll say this. He knows where it's coming from, and he's like the rest of us. We're all just stealing from Stats Williams. But getting back to SGA, I do have a whopper of
Okay.
a stat
A whopper,
that I'm
huh?
stealing.
I got a good one too. Go
Okay,
on.
so I talked about they were setting the screen way up high, right?
Yeah.
So a couple here. They set on-ball screens 30.3 feet from the basket when SGA was the ball handler in game 2. That is the highest average, screen set point of any game.
So you're talking about like a good 7 feet above the top of the 3-point line.
That was the average,
Yeah.
and a lot of those are
Highest for
basically-
any game for what? For him for the season? For him for the playoffs? What was the context on that?
I was just about to say that the
I
furthest
know.
in a game in
I was
his
getting you
career.
back to it. In his
Wow.
career.
In his
Wow.
career. So I mean, and a lot of these are he's 2 or 3 steps over the half court line. Like I said, he just kept splitting it, and then whoosh, he's downhill.
Yeah, he didn't
with
always
that
take
runway.
the screen. Sometimes he went on the other side of it.
Yeah.
It was just, but the Pacers were so worried about it that they were frozen up there.
So 24 of those screens were 30-plus feet away. When they said it,
That's a lot.
Guess the point per possession on those 24 plays.
I'm going to guess 1.4.
1.55.
Yeah.
They're printing money on those plays. So if the Pacers can't figure something else out there, it's going to be real hard for to see
Well,
them.
there's something they
winning.
could do. They could just trap him.
They were trying to split it.
Well, and I had a couple coaches talk to me after game 2 and say, we would love to see somebody try to get the ball out of this guy's hands. Cause like if the game plan, we've talked about it a lot with OKC, is you got to make the other guys try to beat you, right? In game 1, we talked about it going into game 2. Shea was way too aggressive. He was too interested in trying to get his own shots. When he gets up 30 or more shots, it's not really the way he and the Thunder want to play, right? Game 2, he comes out, he's under control, he's back to being in total control of what he's doing.
During this year, he averaged 21 shots, which, by the way, did lead the league. But he averaged 21 shots a game, and in game 2, 21 shots.
That's a much better number than 30, because that means the others are involved,
That's
and
right.
the others were involved in game 2.
And that was how Shea led the league in scoring. That kind of efficiency.
Yes, that was a Shea game.
11 of 12 from the line. Only hit a 3. It's all mid-range and in the restricted area. Just get into his spots. I thought, as efficiently as he scored 34 points, I thought his passing was as good as his score. Now, listen, in game 1, they were 3 of 13 on his passes, but I just didn't think the passing was nearly as crisp. In this game, there were 8 of 14 on his passes, 8 assists, 14 assist opportunities. But there were also a ton of plays where, Shea gets the double, quick decision, and then boom, 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 3 or 4 passes
Or-
later, Caruso's hitting a corner three, or Wiggins is hitting a three.
When he would get deep into the paint, he would still sometimes look to pass.
Yeah.
A couple of Caruso and Wiggins threes. If it wasn't a direct pass, he also had some hockey assists where it was pass,
a bunch
pass.
of them.
But he wasn't forcing shots.
Right. He'd get into the paint, and even though he probably could have taken a shot, he looked to his teammates because obviously they were collapsing on him. All right, here's my favorite Shea stat. So he had 34 points.
Yeah.
It was the 83rd game this year. He's had at least 25.
And that was their 100th game of the season, correct?
I think, yeah, but he didn't play in all 100, so his percentage is even higher.
By the way, it's his 11th game this postseason where he had at least 30 and 5 assists. That's only been done by 2 other guys. They both did it multiple times.
saw
You
that.
probably
LeBron and
guessed
Jordan.
this one.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's not bad company
no,
to be
I mean,
in.
look, he's.
By the way, I saw that his first 2 games, we keep going here, his first 2 games is the most points and assists or something since LeBron in 2018, first 2 games of the finals, which included arguably the most statistically dominant finals game of LeBron's career, where they lost in game one. The J.R. Smith.
Yes.
For the listeners, I'm doing the motion LeBron made when JR.
It was more like with the hands out, like
Yes.
more of a pleading motion.
That was quite a night at Old Oracle Arena. But look,
Former Pacer George, let me just say, former Pacer George Hill, eternally off the hook historically because it was a free throw rebound that JR missed.
correct.
If there was a few seconds left, I mean, in theory, obviously the Warriors could get the ball back and win, but if George hits the free throw, the Cavs win. Go 1-0.
That's right.
And LeBron doesn't punch the blackboard.
It's also true. Well, look, and I mean, speaking of LeBron, I mean, look, not that Shea is LeBron, but Shea is. We talked about it going into the series. Like Shea is doing historic stuff, and if he and the Thunder could get 3 more wins, this Thunder team is going to be one of the all-time great teams in the history of the league. And Shea will have 1 MVP and 1 Finals MVP. Every single person in the same year, every single one of the other 10 guys that's done that is an Inner Circle Hall of Famer. The quote-unquote worst player of them is Willis Reed.
Well,
and Willis Reed is an all-time great player.
But he also so we talk about scoring title, regular season MVP, Finals MVP. You're talking already also a single hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's Shaq. Shaq was the last one to do it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, it's like that's the rarefied air
I said
we're
this
talking
the other
about
day,
this
and I
guy.
think some of our former player colleagues were they've stuck their head back and gave me the down. They looked down at me like this,
Okay.
disapproving. I just said if Shea wins if they win the series and Shea wins the MVP, he's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
No question.
Yeah.
Also, he's just starting his prime.
Correct.
Look, there's one MVP
whoa.
ever that might not get in the Hall of
Derrick
Fame.
Rose.
It's Derrick Rose. And
Yeah.
honestly, with the way the Hall of Fame is, Derrick Rose might get in the Hall of Fame. So if Shea Gilgeous-Alexander wins Finals MVP and they win a title, like, yes, he could walk in today if his career ended.
What we just need to accept, embrace, and enjoy is Shea Gilgeous-Alexander is writing, and he's early in the book, one of the best careers in NBA history.
Possible.
And
Listen, he's got a great chance.
They're going to have a chance because when you talk about all-time grades, team success has to be
Somebody
a big
might
part
be
of
writing
that.
a story about that kind of in the next week. We'll
Good.
see what
Well,
happens
you
in the
stole
series.
some stats
I didn't
from
know
him,
you were
so-
right.
No, I don't mean it that way. Well,
But I mean, seriously, the guy is just entering his prime. He's still getting better year after year after year.
Yeah.
Led the league in scoring this year in very efficient fashion while stuffing the box score otherwise for a 68-win team that is full of guys who are continuing to get better and better
By the
and better.
way, he's averaged over 30 points. So we're in the scoring era in the NBA. I realize that there are some years in the 60s where scoring was even
we're
higher.
in
than
a
this.
scoring era. We'll just say it that way.
Okay, fine. We're in a scoring era. The scoring now in the last four-ish years, especially post-pandemic, is much higher than it was 10 years ago. Even having said that, he has averaged over 30 points 3 straight years and shot over 50% all 3 of those years.
Yeah.
That's like the stuff that like Wilt did.
Yeah. And the stake of his shooting diet are mid-range jumpers.
Yeah, he's a perimeter player. First off, shooting over 50% as a perimeter player is unusual.
Yeah, rarefied air for sure.
And exemplary.
You know,
Doing it when you're averaging 30.
what's going to end up happening, even though the Thunder are a bunch of Boy Scouts, they just are, they're going to end up being hated because people, if you're not a Thunder fan, people are going to get so sick of seeing these guys in late May.
I mean,
and
yeah,
June.
well, people already are. I mean, look, all year we talked about, and again, we keep talking like the series is over, but we talked all year. People kept saying, oh, not really worried about playing the Thunder in the playoffs, not really concerned about playing the Thunder, think we can beat the Thunder. You know, their offense is simple, they're young.
By the way,
blah,
I don't
blah.
think the series is over. I think it's going to be 2-2, and I say
Ooh,
that because
a prediction.
because the Thunder have dropped a road game in every series so far, and the Pacers have not
False.
played.
Yeah, they swept Memphis.
That's true. I didn't even count it.
They dropped a road half there, though. Then they came back from,
That's right.
29
All right,
down.
well,
They tried to
I would
lose.
like to- I would
They
like to
tried to lose a
apologize.
game in Memphis.
in every series that they were facing an opponent
All right,
that
they
had
lost-
any level of a
they
fighting
lost in
chance.
Denver and they lost in Minneapolis.
This is fair.
And there was the one in Minneapolis I was at was a stinker, and
Yeah.
Indy hasn't had a great performance yet. Now maybe they're not capable of great performance against them, but
Now, Indy's had
they're
a great,
capable, they're
a
capable
great
of
3
hitting
minutes.
shots. And if they hit
Yeah.
shots, the Thunder are also very capable of going 8 for 40 from 3.
I am in agreement that the Thunder are clearly the better team, which is not a surprise. They were heavily favored,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I am not at the point where I'm willing to say it's over.
Well,
Now,
there's
No, it's not
there's a
over.
lot of games left to be played. There's all sorts of things that are left to happen. People can get hurt. Crazy bounces could happen. I mean, the Thunder were 0.3 of a second away from being the third team ever to lead wire to wire in a game, and instead it's 1-1.
Yeah.
So, like that could easily stuff like that could still happen, but
But,
You know.
by the way, changing the subject here, but I'm shocked that Carlisle pulled the plug with 4 minutes left. I know
Yeah.
4 minutes, 17 points. I get it, but dude, that's what this team does. They pull off miracles.
I agree.
That really shocked
So
me.
I will say, I remember I was watching on TV. I was in the back. Johnny Furphy,
Yeah.
who I can't remember ever playing a total straight garbage non-minute. No offense to him, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Johnny Furphy comes to the scores table, and he's at the scores table for like
He got up when it was, I think they were down 23.
it was like 3 or 4 possessions. He's at the scores table. And I'm
And they
like,
went on a little 6-0 run.
he did. And Mark Dagenall called timeout. And I go, well, he's not actually going to bring Johnny Furphy into this game now.
and then he did.
But he
And they-
pulled the plug and
he
with
put it
4
in for
minutes
Haliburton.
left.
yeah, I mean,
know.
I was okay with it.
Now, by the way, just real quick.
Rick was asked about it, and he
Okay.
said sometimes you have to make tough decisions. That was an easy one.
I did not think they were coming back in that
I
game.
understand.
Well, I didn't think they were coming back when they're 14
Fair,
down with less than 3
fair,
minutes left against
fair.
the
All right,
Knicks.
fair.
So, by the way, there was some footage the other night of Tyrese limping a little bit in the post-game interview. He's not been on the injury report. He practiced today, and Rick Carlisle was asked about it, and he said that he's been in some discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he said.
So
Was
Tyrese
he
was asked
limping
about
going
it.
to and from the podium.
No, he wasn't. And, they actually did more than you usually see in the open
That's true, yeah.
portion of practice. He was running around. He looked fine. He had some, like, what's the black tape? What's
Yeah,
it?
the
kinesio tape.
Yeah.
A little bit of tape on it. But Tyrese was asked about it, and he said, I'm fine. He said something along the lines of, it's a lower leg issue, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'll be playing tomorrow.
We're here with MacMahon and Bontemps in the Gainbridge Fieldhouse
I like it.
in between Pennsylvania Street and Delaware Street. How about that?
Oh, okay. A little
Like the
geography
additional
lesson.
flair every time.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
The only reason you knew that's because there's
Yes, well,
big letters right
let
there.
me tell you something. It was literally on this. It was literally on this spot that I stood. My voice is going. It was literally on this spot in this atrium that I stood in the spring of 2012, doing hits every half hour on the half hour when the Pacers got up 2-1 on the Heat, and it was 2 days off between games 3 and 4, and the Heat canceled practice. They'd already lost to the Mavericks of year 1. So year 2, this is like, oh my God, the Heat might lose again. And when the Heat canceled practice, it was treated as like a breaking news event. It was like on the the scroll.
That was one of the first times we were ever doing the same thing, because I was here covering that series for the New York Post for the same reason. Everybody was like, "Oh man,
Yeah.
here go the Heat."
So
By the way, this is a great arena.
Yes.
And it's got like kind of an old school. It's not an old arena, but it's got kind of like that old school.
Yeah,
that
was the
it's
design.
rare.
It's not
rare.
arena. It's a field.
It's the rare arena in the NBA that's built solely for basketball. Not surprisingly, given
and they
we're
built
in
it to
Indiana.
look old. They built it. I mean, to say it was modeled on Hinkle's Fieldhouse wouldn't be exactly fair, but they wanted it to have that old feel.
Oh, by the way, you know what's happening at Hinkle Fieldhouse tonight?
Uh-oh.
Media pickup run. Shout out to Mac-10 for getting that thing organized.
Just don't
Leave Scott Agnes. Shout out to Scott Agnes
Scott
for
Agnes,
helping him get
yes,
it
for
organized.
sure.
don't blow your Achilles.
Dude, why would you say that?
Okay. Giannis Antetokounmpo gave
Good job, Window.
I mean,
Good job.
Like, this is offensive.
First, he's predicting the outcome of the series. Now he's predicting injuries. It's not.
No, I
good.
didn't. I just said
That's-
don't.
but that's
Just
what
be
you-
careful.
that's-
Stretch it out. Stretch it out. Loosen it up.
Just don't speak that into
My
existence, man.
goodness.
That's what
Yes,
you, what you
easy.
do.
Easy, cowboy.
All right. You're playing a lot recently. I'm just worried.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
All right,
I've
fine.
survived every time.
All right, good. Okay, so look, Giannis gave some weird interview in Brazil. I'm disregarding it. I am just going to say that what I can tell you is that Giannis is on vacation overseas doing stuff, and there has been no trade demand, no trade request. There is no meeting scheduled. As far as I'm sure the Bucks have taken a lot of calls from people saying, "Hey,
Oh, yeah.
if you have any interest in trading number 34, just this is maybe what we're willing to do, or please call me," or whatever.
Right.
But as far as I know, I don't know if the Bucks have made any outgoing calls.
Well, and to your point that you said on TV today, the Bucks don't have interest in trading Giannis. If Giannis asks to be traded, then they're going to have to,
right, but that's not a no-brainer statement considering where they're at.
well,
But
my understanding of John Horst's philosophy, and actually this gets back to former Bucks coach John Nelson. What'd he say? Something, I'm paraphrasing, but with this whole Luka protest, he said something along
it
the line
was
of,
relevant.
when you get that kind of a player, you keep them forever if you can, you honor them, you put their numbers in the rafter, like you never say
Right.
farewell unless, he didn't say this, but unless you're
you
absolutely
build a
forced to
statue
do
of
it.
him taking a fall-away shot outside
Exactly.
the arena.
You
for
do
example.
you do all of those things, and Giannis obviously is that kind of a player. He's a guy who's delivered a championship.
By the way,
to
I know the
Milwaukee.
story has been told before, but Nelly retold the story of draft night when Paul Pierce slid in the
Yeah.
draft, and all of a sudden Pierce was there when the Mags were taking, and
And he was Nelly's favorite player in the draft.
he was like, "Bleep, my favorite player in the draft is here."
But Donnie had been hiding Dirk out and made him a promise.
Right. And, they had promised Dirk they were going to take him, and Dirk shut down all workouts, and so they'd promised him.
And actually were able to trade down to get him. You know who they traded down with?
Milwaukee.
Bucks.
The Milwaukee Bucks, who
That's
took
right.
Robert Tractor Trailer at 6.
man.
Dirk went 9.
R.I.P. to Tractor Trailer. My only thing I'll say about Tractor is when I got hit in the face in Seattle, Tractor fell on the floor. He literally, when I say fell on the floor, he literally fell off the chair at the end of the bench onto the ground, laughing at me.
That's a deep cut for
But
your
Tractor
listeners. Go back
was
and find the story. in the
a
archives.
wonderful man. I loved Tractor. I can't speak to what he did at all times. I loved covering
Well, I'll tell you
Tractor.
what. Why don't you come to Hinkle Fieldhouse tonight? And since you're so worried about my Achilles, you might have a ball hit you in the face there if you want to sit courtside and watch that one.
I'll bet the people fall on the ground laughing then too. You'll probably be pushing them down. All right. Anyway, Nelly tells the story about how he was like, "Oh my God, we might have to take Pierce," and Donnie telling him, "Nope, you promised." Dirk.
Uh-huh.
All right.
It worked
So
out
anyway.
okay for everybody.
So anyway,
Yes, it
Giannis is there is. I'm going to tell you right now, and we're recording this in the afternoon of June 10th. I do not know what the world will look like on June 25th. Is that the draft, June 25th? I do not know what the world will look like on July 10th. I don't know what the world will look like on August 10th. But on June 10th, I am saying there is no Giannis trade happening.
But wait, you're saying there's none happening now, or you're predicting
Now,
that he will be on the Bucks next
what
season?
will.
Look, here's what I would say. I would say we're not going to know anything about where Giannis is at on the Bucks until we see where the Bucks roster is in a month. I don't know that for sure. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a straight reporting, but I think if you look at where the Bucks are with Dame Lillard with his injury and where they are with their finances, let's see where the Bucks are at in a month. Let's see what they put around.
Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
So the Bucks have been heavy taxpayers. They've been in the repeater tax. They've spent tens of millions in tax. They've lost tens of millions in
They
money.
spent hundreds of millions in tax, I believe.
Okay, a lot of money, whatever it is. The Bucks have a window to get out of the tax this year, which is really something you want to do when one of your star players is going to be out for, if not the whole year, a lot of the year with the Achilles, which is why I think we're going to see the Celtics in the same boat, cut payroll.
Here's a little trivia question for you on that.
And now, to present today's trivia question, the whiz of the quiz, Tim Bontemps.
So per Sportico, I was looking this up because I took a screenshot of it the other day. The Bucks have spent, I believe it's the Sportico, a Spot Track, I should say. Sorry. The Bucks have spent $219 million in tax over the past 13 years. There are 5 teams that have spent more money in tax. Who are they?
Ever or over the last 13 years?
13 years. Suns,
Warriors,
Celtics. Not the Celtics.
Really?
Celtics
Not the
are
Celtics.
7th.
The Cavs paid a lot, but I don't know if they paid that much. I don't think they did.
Cavs are 8th, $135 million.
All right. 5 teams that have spent more?
You got the Warriors. The Warriors are first with $748 million in tax.
Heavens.
Jeez.
Oh, Lakers?
Lakers are 4th.
Okay, so I got 3 of
$273
them.
million in tax.
Clippers?
Clippers,
Yeah.
$406 million in tax. There's one other team.
I'm missing one.
Not the Mavericks.
Not the Mavericks.
Cuban was a cheapo till he sold for a while.
Another Comet-like super team.
Nets.
The Nets.
Oh my.
Nets spent $349 million in
Well, the
tax.
Nets got the least bang.
Because
for
you gotta
that
remember
buck.
Well,
2012.
no, it doesn't. The Suns
Well,
do.
the Suns, because it was 1 year.
Well, you got to remember 2012 not only counts the big 3 of KD, Kyrie, and Harden, it also counts
Goes
the
back to KG
Mikhail
and
Prokhorov team
Right,
that I covered
right.
with
Well,
Paul Pierce
that's
and
fine,
Kevin
but
Garnett.
the Suns
and those
did make
guys.
the finals wonce. I don't think they were paying a lot for that team, but they did make the
No,
finals.
but their payments came
later.
post finals.
I know, but how many playoff series for all that tax money have the Nets won in the last 13
They've
years?
won 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2.
All right.
And how
Anyway.
many playoff series are the Bucks going to win moving forward under this current
Well, here's my
core?
question. Okay, look, even if Giannis comes out between now and when this podcast posts and says, I am not trading, ironclad, lock me in, the Bucks have a whole bunch of big decisions to make. They got to make a decision on Brook Lopez. Are they re-signing him? I don't see how they can't. And if they're re-signing him, for how much? Bobby Portis has an option in his contract.
If they re-sign Brook Lopez for basically any number, they're guaranteed to be in the tax, barring a lot of moves.
Well, how do you look Giannis in the eye and say we want you to stay and let Brook Lopez walk?
this is why I would say let's see where the Bucks are at.
Well,
in a month.
here's the thing. I think the Bucks believe that even with Dame out for the majority, if not all of next season, in all honesty, I know that Achilles tendon surgeries have improved, but it's hard for me to be able to honestly say with a straight face, I think he can come back. But okay, let's say that he can come back for the playoffs. The Bucks believe they're going to have to spend some money on a replacement point guard.
Yeah.
I mean, look, they have hardly any draft picks. They have
1 first-round pick they can trade, right?
Where's their pick next season? You know off the top of your head?
New Orleans. I think New Orleans controls it the next 3 years.
Yes, between picks and swaps, they don't control their pick for quite a while.
That's the thing. It's tough even to try to convince to say with a straight face it can be a reset type of season.
Maybe Minnesota has one of their picks because I think it went to New York.
I'd have to go look at specifically who
And then I
has
think
what.
maybe-
But look,
yeah.
that's why I say let's see where they're at in a month. Let's see the pieces they can put around him a month from now. Let's see if Brook Lopez is
Okay,
on the roster.
I
Let's
agree-
see if they
I
have
agree
Gary
with
Trent
that
back.
sentiment. My
Let's
point
see
is
what
this.
they do.
My point is this. For all the teams that are moving into draft season and the beginning of free agency who were thinking that they may be able to go for Giannis, I don't think that's going to be on the table. Doesn't mean, again, I can't speak about August 10th on June 10th. I wouldn't say that about almost any team. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander will be on the Thunder August 10th. That I'll say. Probably with a big new extension.
Yeah, I would have said at this point in the finals last year, Luka Doncic would be on the Mavericks, but I
Okay,
feel
there you go. All right.
I feel more confident about Shai.
Shai ain't going anywhere.
But if you're a team that's looking to make a major move, I don't think that is going to be available for Giannis between now and the short-term future.
Yeah, I mean, I would say we're in the same position we've been in for a couple months now, which is that this summer is going to be full of uncertainty. And you've got uncertainty in Milwaukee, you've got uncertainty in Boston, you've got uncertainty in Phoenix, you've got uncertainty in places
Well, I think it's more likely that Durant does get moved.
Well, no, but again, it's uncertainty. What is going to happen?
It's uncertain today, but I think it's
no. But I just mean in general. You don't know what he's going to turn into. You don't know what they're going to like.
Fair.
There's uncertainty.
Well, there's uncertainty to go off season for the majority of teams.
But I mean, like there's major uncertainty with Kevin Durant. What's going to happen with Giannis? What's going to happen with the Celtics? Are the Rockets going to push in pieces? Are the Spurs going to push in pieces? Are the Warriors going to push in pieces? What are the Lakers going to do? Like there are a lot of big name players and big name teams. What are the Mavericks going to do? They have a lot of things they have to figure out.
I mean, are the Jazz going to shop Larry Markkinen?
Right. There's a ton of stuff.
They should, because they're not going anywhere in this West.
They absolutely should. But there's a lot of stuff like that that's all sitting out there as maybes. Just a ton of maybes.
But for the sake of this discussion with Giannis, don't sell your Giannis 34 jerseys.
Yeah. And by the way, I looked it up. The Pelicans have their pick via swap rights next year.
Right. But I think there's 2 or 3 that were outstanding still.
They're out for a while.
Yeah, it's still I think 2030 that they don't have control of their draft. So I mean, look, it's a difficult spot, and I also, like we talked about it a little bit the other day with the Devin Booker thing. Like you get a player like Giannis, there were 50 years between titles in Milwaukee, right? One they had Kareem and Oscar Robertson, the other they had Giannis Antetokounmpo. Those are 3 of the top 20 players of all time.
Right.
You don't get those players
and
every
they traded Kareem, and they didn't get back to the finals for 40 years.
Right. And you know what? If Giannis does some soul searching on his international travels and says, hey, I'm good in Milwaukee. I want to stick around in Milwaukee.
Great.
You don't trade the guy.
Like Dirk.
That's what I was going to say.
Like, Dirk's got one of the coolest legacies of anybody in the last 25 years.
He's got a restaurant at the airport in Dallas. I just saw it yesterday.
He does. And let's just be honest. The Mavericks botched Dirk's twilight from a personnel standpoint pretty badly.
It was botched because he gave up a whole ton of money, and then they didn't
also,
do anything with it.
But they made a lot of mistakes too.
Yeah, there was a lot of they didn't, like, when he, after that championship, he still had a good 5 years where he could have been.
That's true.
A contributor on a contender, and they weren't
he
able
gave
to
up money.
And they weren't able to put him in that situation again. We'll see what happens in Milwaukee. We'll see if Giannis is there long term. We'll see if they're able to build around him. But my point is this: I don't think anybody regrets Dirk staying in Dallas and spending his entire career there. Now, and Dirk admitted this back when he was playing. It would have been hard for him not to consider going elsewhere to chase a ring if he didn't have one.
Of course.
Giannis has one. Now, Giannis is also on the record basically saying, hey, if I don't get at least 2, I feel like I've let myself down.
Well, look, when you're 29 years old, you can't say, well, that's good for me.
Yeah.
Like at the end, Dirk was like, that was a great run. But when you're 29, you can't say, well, if we make it in the first round the next 5 years, I'm fine.
Well, especially when you're still a top 3 player in the world.
Darius Garland had surgery on Monday on his toe.
His great toe.
His big toe.
Oh, wait, surgery for the thing that had him questionable for multiple playoff games?
Correct.
Yeah.
First suffered the injury in March.
Causing him to miss multiple playoff games.
Re-aggravated the injury in the first game of the playoffs, and it really impacted him the rest of the way. In that series against the Pacers, he only shot 34%, 18% on threes. He was not himself very clearly. He did make the All-Star team this year. He'll be out 4 to 5 months. Likely, probably not going to be. I mean, he has a surgery June 9th. 4 months is October 9th. So that's the second week of training camp. 5 months is November 9th. You're in the third week of the season. So whatever.
Yeah. If
he's not starting opening night, it won't be a surprise. There were people that felt that he could have played through that injury. And people also criticized Evan Mobley for not playing through an ankle injury. Clearly, Garland was dealing with something pretty severe. He did wait 4 weeks to have the surgery. He also, in the release, it said that he had consulted with multiple different doctors. So maybe, I don't know for sure, but maybe this is one of those where they were trying to decide between having the surgery or trying to let it heal. Ended up having the surgery a month after the season. Now the Cavs are, starting the season without him. But more than that, there was some wonder about whether the Cavs would be interested in trading him. I never thought they would trade him. I thought they would answer the phone if he got traded. I never thought they would trade him. Kobe Altman, their president, was on the record as saying he wanted to see what this team could do fully healthy. That appears to be the way they're going. It's just going to be a while before they're healthy.
And Kobe Altman absolutely loves Darius Garland. He was the first one of those core 4. And I wrote a story about Garland this year and kind of the bounce back year that he had after the year before, the broken jaw, lost a bunch of weight, wasn't himself in the playoffs, all those sorts of things. Kobe made a point to remind me that they drafted him basically off 4.5 games of film at Vanderbilt. Not just, there's a lot more than win, but essentially saying, hey, the guy barely played in college.
They drafted Kyrie off 10 games at Duke. That worked out.
Yeah, but basically his point was like, we liked him that much where he only played 4.5 games in college, and they still picked him. What was that, like the 4th overall pick?
It was 4th.
Yeah.
5th, I believe.
5th.
Top 5 pick.
Top 5 pick for sure. I think it was 5th. I mean, look, Cavs are in an interesting spot. They had a great season, 64 wins, awesome offense, great year. They go out in flames in the second round. Wasn't the most impressive performance, just be honest about it.
You're being nice.
Some of it was, like Darius Garland was clearly not himself, right? Some of it was they got worked by the Pacers.
Yep.
Pacers were also just red hot.
Well, they were red hot, and look, like we talked about, the Cavs have places to attack on defense. Like they've got Evan Mobley, who deservedly won Defensive Player of the Year, and they've got Jared Allen. They've also got a lot of mediocre to bad perimeter defenders. Now it's something we talked about a lot during the season. How would that go in the playoffs? Well,
not well.
The Pacers repeatedly attacked them, and they really couldn't do anything about it. So you go into this summer, you're looking at the Pacers next year, you go, well, what should you do with the team? Well,
the Cavs next year.
Yeah, right. You look at the Pacers as, hey, that's the team we're looking at going into next year. We want to get to the finals. What do? If you look at where the league is right now, just about every team has a point guard. Just about every team has a center, right? So if you're looking at the Cavs, you're not trading Evan Mobley, you're not trading Donovan Mitchell.
The Suns don't have either, but go on.
Well, yes, there are certain teams that don't, but most teams have those positions filled. So if you're looking at the Cavs, you say, all right, if you want to make a big shake-up trade, right? If you want to shake up the core four, you're either going to trade Jared Allen, you're going to trade Darius Garland.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those two positions are the deepest positions in the league. So you're already going to have a hard time getting equal value back in a trade. And now Darius Garland's having toe surgery and is out till the fall.
It's not going to derail his career, but you're not going to get maximum
value. No, you're not going to get maximum value when the guy's just had surgery on his toe. So, to me, where the Cavs are at is very simple. Obviously, it was a very disappointing end to what was an awesome season. But the questions for me are, do you want to invest in Ty Jerome? Do you want to invest in Sam Merrill? Do you want to try to find other ways to maybe get another better perimeter defender or two that could play? Because Isaac Okoro is not a good offensive player to be a 16-game player in the playoffs. And you try to go into next year's playoffs healthy, and you give it another run. Because, again, all these guys are young. They're in their 20s. They're all under contract. There's no reason for the Cavs to panic and blow this team up.
Yeah, I think they owe themselves the due diligence to listen to opportunities, because starting on July 1st, they enter the second apron. And the chances of putting together a large trade after getting the second apron are dramatically reduced. Just because you want to vet the market and make sure that you don't enter the second apron without turning over every rock doesn't mean that you want to make a trade. But that's the truth. The second apron is a real thing. I know it's annoying to people, but that's the reality.
By the way, so we got Game 3 Wednesday night. First, I want a prediction. You already predicted it's going to be...
Oh,
well, hold on.
Yes.
You already predicted it's going to be 2-2. So the Pacers winning Game 3 or Game 4.
I didn't use the word predict.
You said it's going to be 2-2.
You've made two predictions.
So which game are they going to win?
And then I was going to blow my Achilles.
I predict that McMahon's going to dominate tonight.
Are they going to win Game 3 or Game 4? Just call it. Who cares? You already said they're winning one of them.
No, I'm not getting that. I'm not going to be held down to that. No,
all right. Well, you already said it. And also, shout out to our guy, Tyler Ford.
Oh, little fella?
Game 3.
Friend of the pod.
Friend of the pod. He's going to be doing his first ever NBA Finals game tonight. Tyler obviously came on the pod. Great guy, listener to the pod. So hopefully he has a clean game, and I don't have to do the pool report with him and his fellows after the game.
That's the pressure. Not screwing up a call in the finals, but having to talk to him.
Can you believe that he's been designated as the pool reporter for these games? Oh. Like the NBA has all these people to choose from.
Dude,
they choose him.
Yeah, they want to make sure it's done right.
None of the rest.
Not calling this guy.
Listen,
I think they're calling this guy.
Tyler Ford.
Come
on, listen. I'll give Tyler Ford credit. He is the only active referee who has admitted that he's under 6 feet tall. All these other little fellas tell me they're 6 feet. They're lying. They're lying. Gucci Mane, James Williams, he's revised that to 5'11". He lies an inch less every time I see him.
Well, after all that, shout out to Tyler. And
Also, the officiating
pretty cool he's doing the game
This
tomorrow
is knock on wood. The officiating has been very good in this series so far. Maybe the Pacers would like a few more fouls called in the Thunder, but I don't think it's been a
Well,
big issue.
shockingly, the best referees are doing the finals, and the games are looking pretty good. So,
All right. Thank you for watching Hoop Collective. Thank you to Jackson and Rafa, who are behind the scenes here. Thank you to everybody who's making this possible out on the road. And thank you to MacMahon and Bontemps. We'll be talking to you later this week.
Adios, amigos.